Hello everybody, Outdoor Gypsy here. If you enjoy hiking, backpacking, or just simply the outdoors, then you are in the right place. Join us as we tackle the Teton Crest Trail in the incredible state of Wyoming. For those of you interested in a little bit more detail on this trek, hang around to the very end where I will be sharing my thoughts, tips, tricks, things you may want to know before you plan your own adventure. Let's get some nature love. All right, goobers. HMDM, we're all back.
Woo, woo.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, go team.
Good morning, guys. Day 2, coming at you from Moose Lake, where we spent the night last night. A little bit torturous trying to get up here. Pretty high elevation, 9,300 feet and change, but it kind of made up for it because there's nobody else around. We're enjoying this beautiful sunrise. We could hear a pin drop from a mile away. It was so quiet. And my brother was able to catch what we suspect is a cutthroat trout, but possibly a deformed one at that. But nonetheless, super beautiful here. Highly recommend it. Day 2, here we go. Death Canyon Shelf. Day 3. Good morning here from Death Canyon Shelf. Last night was a very interesting night. Moderately strong winds, moderately strong rains made for intermittent sleep at best, I would say. Got the morning puffy eye to prove it. Fortunately today we're greeted by a beautiful parting sky with sunrise over the Tetons. They're still a little shrouded with the cloud cover, but you get to take in these beautiful views here on the rock wall behind us. Today we're going to be pushing to South Fork Cascade Campground, weather permitting. Hopefully we can get over Hurricane Pass without a lot of lightning strikes or ominous skies moving in. Day 4. Welcome to South Fork of the Cascade Canyon camping zone. Today we're going to be pushing to Holly Lake for camp. We're currently sitting at 9,000 foot in elevation. We're going to be scooting down real quick to 7,800 feet and then turning around in 3 to 4 miles, hiking all the way back up to 10,600 foot and change to Paintbrush Divide. Along the way, we're going to try and do a little bit of fishing for my brother, who's had some good luck right now fishing at Moose Lake, so fingers crossed he catches a few more. Despite the hurricane force winds yesterday here, it is super calm and tranquil, so we're going to take advantage of that, grab a bite to eat before we hit the trail. Good morning. It is a wet one here today at the Holly Lake Campground, and looks like it's going to be for the next 6 miles all the way until we end our trip here on the Teton Crest Trail. We're going to be heading all the way back to the Jenny Lake Trailhead. It's relatively flat and downhill. We'll see you at the end. We did it, yeah.
Good job, team.
Good job. All right, guys, that's it. Last day on trail. TCT, cross it off the bucket list, finally. Wasn't the most picturesque day out here on trail, but it was still nonetheless a super beautiful day to hike. Welcome back, everybody. Let's jump right on into some of the specifics on this trip. We did this over the course of 5 days, 4 nights, with those nights being spent at Moose Lake, Death Canyon Shelf, South Fork of the Cascade, as well as Holly Lake. You are going to need backcountry permits for the majority of the camping here along the Teton Crest Trail. I am going to leave a link in the description down below. It will take you directly to the recreation.gov website, where it should answer almost all of your questions on the backcountry permit process, timing, and so on. Even if you're not fortunate enough to gain access to the advanced lottery or even the walk-up permits, as long as you're willing to camp just outside Teton National Park in the Jedidiah Smith Wilderness, you won't even have to deal with any of the permit process. Because it's a wilderness area, there are no permits required, and you can stay there without any hassles. Some of the technicals on this trip: it took us almost exactly 50 miles to complete, with an elevation gain of 12,500 foot and change. It is a point-to-point hike, and we elected to start this trip from the Phillips Canyon trailhead, which does provide ample parking, and actually across the street is a massive overflow parking lot, so parking at this trailhead shouldn't be a problem. Most people do elect to take the tram up and take some of the distance off this trail and get right to the guts and glory of the Teton Crest Trail, so keep in mind if you do it that way, your distance will be a little bit shorter than ours. Since this is a national park, you would expect the trails to be in good condition, which they were. They were absolutely superb and excellent. We found that all the trails, as well as most of the campsites, are very well marked and labeled. It is very easy to find them. There's signage in plenty of areas, so getting lost or finding campsites shouldn't be a problem. We did this trip in the middle of August, so it's the height of the season for backpacking here in Teton National Park. With the exception of Solitude Lake, we came across very few other backpackers or hikers, so I would say this trip very much lends itself well if you're looking for solitude. Just a quick synopsis here, my overall thoughts and takes on each day. Day 1, we actually hiked from Phillips Canyon to Moose Lake. We did actually get to see a moose on this section of the trail. All right, guys, you probably can't see it right now, but we got our first female moose right there. Right after our moose sighting, we ended up hiking through some really neat and tall fireweed, and right after that we pushed to Phillips Pass, and it was just absolutely incredible panoramic views, and we took that in as we broke for lunch. We eventually made our way up to Moose Lake, where there was absolutely nobody around. We were the only people there. The only thing I will say here is the terrain was kind of rocky and undulating, which made it difficult to set up a flat camp. But what it lacked in campsite, it made up for fishing for my brother, who was able to pull out 1 or 2 cutthroat trout. Even if one of them was a little bit deformed at that, it was still a great spot for camp. Day 2 was probably my most anticipated day, since we were going to be officially entering Teton National Park, and we were going to be passing by Marion Lake, for which we did actually take a dip to cool our overheated bodies and achy feet. We were lucky enough to score permits to camp on Death Canyon Shelf, which is arguably the best camping area on the TCT. In the morning, you can catch the stunning sunrise, which is second to none in my opinion. The whole day you have beautiful open meadows filled to the capacity with wildflowers and an occasional snowfield. Death Canyon Shelf is much larger than I thought and stretches a few miles from one end to the other, and the campsites are quite spread out. We also got to see some very friendly deer near our camp when we were on Death Canyon Shelf, which just made the experience that much better. The wildlife here just does not care how close it gets. Right now that deer is maybe 15 yards away from me. Day 3, we were going to be pushing to South Fork Cascade Campground. Clouds parted early in the morning, and by midday the Tetons played peekaboo with us as we reached Hurricane Pass. Stunning scenery on this day from start to finish, and arguably was the most scenic part of our trip. Vast meadows with an array of wildflowers yielded to the views of the mountains as far as our eyes could see. The grandeur of hiking up on Alaska Basin and Sunset Lake is breathtaking, but pales in comparison to your approach of Hurricane Pass and just witnessing the awe of the Tetons. We found Hurricane Pass definitely lived up to its namesake with super strong gusts at times while we were up there. Woo! Hold on. We were all super excited for day 4 as we had some high expectations coming off of our previous day's experience, and the Tetons delivered in the way of remarkable canyons, rivers, lakes, and divides. We hiked up to Lake Solitude where we did just a short bit of fishing since there was a chance of lightning in the afternoon. My brother ended up catching 4 cutthroat trout here in just around 45 minutes to an hour, so I would say the fishing here was quite good. As unbelievable of an experience as we had on day 3, making the long grind up to Paintbrush Divide had a far bigger impact on me personally, looking back at the vastness of the North Fork Canyon, dozens of glaciers in the distance, Lake Solitude and Mica, and the challenge of ascending to Paintbrush Divide. Descending down the switchback from Paintbrush Divide was as much fun as any adventure could hope for, and its apex was capped by an arduous snowfield that kept us all with heightened senses, especially my girlfriend. With our heightened senses returning back to baseline, we slowly came up upon our next campsite, that being Holly Lake, which was just absolutely spectacular and welcome sight. Day 5, our last day on trail, was a short hike that started out mysterious and oh so very wet, which would shroud most of our day's views, but one that made you feel like you deserve to be an adventure out here on the TCT. As you can see through the entire video, you're gonna come upon a ton of different wildflowers. Your experience will differ just a little bit than ours depending on the conditions of the winter prior, as well as the time of the year that you do this. Just some of the pictures that I took of the flowers here on our trip are red clover, parasol white tops, geraniums, white spirea, yarrow, aster, woodlawn sunflowers, harebell, Sierra larkspur, monkshood, fireweed, nettleleaf giant hyssop, Lewis flax, white pasquet flower, perennial sow thistle, mountain bog gentian, giant red Indian paintbrush, Nuttall's linanthus, sweet vetch, scarlet trumpets, fleabane, Rocky Mountain columbine, great purple monkey flowers, elephant's head, and monument plant. In addition to all of the wildflowers, we also came upon a lot of blueberry as well as twin berries. As much good as there always is to say about every trip, I always like to bring out like, hey, what are the negatives? What are the drawbacks? I really thought long and hard on this. There really weren't even any bugs on this trip for us, and I really couldn't even think of a single negative on this trip. I think this might be the most idyllic trip to backpack in the entire country. Finally, just keep a couple of general tips in mind. Make sure if you're setting up camp, you do it at least 200 feet away from a lake and 100 feet away from a trail. This is just general good practice. If you guys have any questions or if you have any other comments, things I forgot, feel free to leave them down in the comments below for everybody. In the meantime, I am the Outdoor Gypsy. I'm signing off for now, but I will see you guys on the next adventure.